Hey y'all, and welcome back to the full set review of the Universes Beyond Yu-Gi-Oh! Draft set. Today we will be talking about the red-green cards. Now I'm going to go over the grading system and everything here in a sec, but if you already know all that stuff and don't need to hear it again, feel free to skip to the time code on screen. We're going to go over every card in the set one by one, and we're going to talk about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards that inspired each one of those, how we translated them into Magic the Gathering cards, and then we're going to discuss how good those cards are, and when should you pick them in a cube draft. At this point, we have all had a lot of experience with this cube, enough to tell you how and when you should play each of these cards. We're going to use a grading system that goes from A to F. This grading system is only meant to tell you how highly you should pick the cards while drafting. And the grades go as follows. A is a bomb that you should often first pick. It can either win the game on its own easily, or is a part of a powerful game plan that is worth getting into as fast as you can. B is a solid card that draws you into an archetype, or a deck type, or a card that can efficiently interact with your opponent. You should pick Bs very highly. Cs are the bread and butter of your deck. Once you have an idea of where you're going, finding the right C-level cards is an incredibly important part of creating a consistent deck that won't just lose to itself. Don't pick these cards super highly, but you do want to make sure you have the correct C-level cards for your deck. D, these are either cards that just don't perform as highly as you want them to, or cards that fit only in very specific deck types. Often these are kind of like C-level cards, but they only go into like one deck, or they're cards with just low overall impact. There is certainly a right time to pick these cards, but it isn't early and it isn't often. F is a grade that we only give to cards that you should pretty much never pick under any circumstances, and if we gave a card an F grade, it probably means we need to buff that card. So, if you're curious about the set and want to learn more, I have left a ton of resources in the description, including a visual spoiler website that's easy to navigate, a Google Drive with all the images so you can print the set yourself, and a link to our Discord server so you can join us when we draft the set. With all that in mind, I hope you all enjoy this series of deep dives into the Yu-Gi-Oh! Universe Beyond draft experience. Think of it like a podcast series, with each episode covering a different part of the set. We're going to go over all the two-color pairs first, then each monocolor group, and finally colorless cards. But first, a word from our sponsor, MythAtom.com. MythAtom is an online store focused on products designed around the media we love. From game accessories to jewelry and more, MythAtom uses creativity and understanding to recreate many of the most iconic elements of our favorite nerdy stuff. They sent me some really cool items that you should be able to see on screen right now. I got a really cool MTG Commander deck box with this amazing stained glass look on the green deck box. It's got a nice case and pocket for your commander to show off as well. Yes, my commander's Mathis the Friend Seeker. No, I will not answer any questions about the deck. MythAtom sells other cool deck boxes too, and sleeves and binders and playmats and tokens, I mean, you name it. All your classic gaming items and accessories. But what's even cooler than that is the other item they sent me. This metal Colossus hammer keychain. This thing is gorgeous and looks just like the one from the card art. I'm going to put that on screen right here. It's very sturdy and weighty, and it's just a really well-made piece. They have a ton of others like this too, whether they're keychains, rings, or necklaces. MythAtom has some of the coolest metalwork nerd relics I've ever seen in a shop like this. They also sent me some glamour shots of the Colossus hammer that we can all marvel at right now. Ooh. Ah. So anyway, if you want to get something neat from this store, they gave me a discount code that you can use at checkout. It's not good. All one word, at checkout, to get an extra 10% off your purchase. That's It's Not Good at checkout. Thanks MythAtom for sponsoring this video. Now back to it. So, red-green, as a color combination in this set, is focused around a couple of disparate things. It has a little bit of ramp, and it has a little bit of beast synergy, though not a ton. Earlier on, in an earlier version of this set, beasts were a bigger part of the archetype list. In fact, red-green was centered around beast warriors, because green had beasts and red and white had warriors, so it kind of overlapped. That changed because the beast warrior archetype wasn't fun. It wasn't very fun to play. It didn't really have a lot of interesting synergies that players were picking. So we updated it and changed it to be something that's a little bit less concrete. And as a result, the green-red decks that play green-red are usually not actually green-red. They're usually using the green-red cards to bridge them into other aspects of their plan. However, having said that, there are some green-red cards that are extremely powerful on their own that work like super well with other types of cards, and we're going to see those. So be on the lookout for those. I think what's really interesting here is we went from green-black being the archetype that is the most insular, that really needs you to play its cards with its cards, right? Because its insects need to be played with insects. This is the opposite end of the spectrum. Any one of these cards could go in pretty much any deck that can cast them, and it's not really all that archetype driven. So as we go through these cards, think about what kinds of decks these could possibly find themselves in as we think about them. But before we jump right in, do you have any thoughts?
Yes, it's just I also wanted to mention, like, this one went through so many changes, and I think for the better. I think now it's like a base, like it's a ramp deck. It has burn elements. It just has like this grindy feel. What I really enjoy about it is like the green red feel. In early Yu-Gi-Oh, like the Yu-Gi-Oh game itself, beast decks weren't really that big a thing, right? There were beast cards that were played, but you didn't play. Oh, I'm playing this beast deck or whatever. Um, we have a lot of this like beast feel in this color combination, and I really enjoy that. Beast warrior feel. We didn't right out put gladiator beasts in here, but we do have like a lot of things adjacent to that.
Yeah.
And some classics from the olden days that were like beasts that were good back in the day found their place here, which
Yeah.
I think is nice.
And if I was going to give some advice on how you play with these cards, I actually think one of the best strategies to be using some of these cards in is a 5-color deck, which is why we left this, or 5 or 4-color deck, which is why we left this archetype so open in what it can do, because it's the best at getting you your colors. When it's good at ramping, it's good at finding lands, it's good at using them, it's good at making a lot of mana. That allows it to be a flexible set of card colors, which is, as we go through these, keep an eye out for how these can do that for you. A good example of a 5-color deck is the 5-color Monarchs deck. This color combination, either green-red or green-white, is really the base colors you're going to use for a 5-color Monarchs deck because of how it flexes you into the other stuff. So let's look at our first card. Sorry, Aaron.
One quick last mention. I think originally we had the Buster Blader. Yeah, we still have the Buster Blader stuff in here.
Yeah.
We changed that along the way because we realized, a lot of people pointed out that the Buster Blader stuff usually revolves around not letting your opponent play.
Yeah.
And that is not a very fun play pattern. So the Buster Blader stuff is still here, but it's it's not the Buster Blader color combination anymore, which it was before a little bit.
Yeah, some of the cards are still here, but they are doing a different thing. They are not doing the Yu-Gi-Oh! Buster Blader stuff. So, all right. Our first card is Battle Ox, which is 4-star Earth Beast Warrior normal monster with 1700 attack and 1000 defense. Aaron, tell me about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime and how many times this appeared on screen.
Yeah, I mean, this is Kaiba's OG. This is the guy who would play every time.
Every turn one.
I think I don't remember. I think Battle Axe was sometimes played, as a supplement because you only had so many legends.
Yeah.
In the early days, but I feel like it wasn't long that people started playing all the other 1800 guys that came out. But for a while, I think for a little while, you had the Battle Ox, you had one of the OGs. Everyone knows this guy. I feel like there is 100 reasons why we needed this guy in this set.
Yeah, absolutely. So in Magic, Battle Ox is 1 in a red-green hybrid for a 2/2 creature beast warrior. It has trample and haste, and it says whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, add red-green. Until the end of turn, you don't lose its mana as steps and phases end. So what this is really doing is it's fitting into 2 concepts of this set's design. It's 1, fitting into that ramp archetype where this card does ramp you, right? It makes mana back that you just spent to play it, as well if you can hit in right there. But it's also fitting into the actual Warriors archetype because the Warriors archetype is all about fast aggression. So having a 2/2 trample haste for 2 that can also allow you to play another spell in your second main phase just applies that pressure super fast for the Warriors deck. And in fact, I think the Warriors deck is where this card itself is the strongest. Unlike some of the other cards that are very ramp oriented, this card, while it does make mana and can ramp you, it has to get in. And if it's only going to be able to get in the early turns before your opponents have a lot of blockers. And so, a card like this, it's best oriented into a much more aggressive style of play. There are actually a lot of different decks that can be that aggressive. You can have green white be super aggressive and get to play this. You can have red white be super aggressive and play this. You could also have a green red archetype be super aggressive. So what you're looking for this card is just a deck that can get on the board fast and put the pressure on your opponent, because the mana it's giving you is more of a pressure tool and less of a ramp into big things tool, I would say. I would give this card a C minus because it's small, its impact is only great essentially on turns 2 and 3, but it's a nice piece for a lot of the decks that would be able to take advantage of this quick mana, right? The main thing you're really looking to do with this card is turn 2, cast it, hit them for 2, cast another 2-drop. That's the best way to play this card. But I'm giving it a C, C minus kind of. What are your thoughts, Aaron?
I would disagree, honestly, because I think there is one use that you haven't talked about yet, which is this can go mana positive if you're using it to emerge something.
Oh, so true. I don't know why I didn't think about
Yeah.
that. Oh, it's really good
If
for a
you
merge.
if
Holy
you
shit.
yeah, if you hit something with this, you gain 2 mana, and then you can with that mana emerge something and gain 2 mana discounts because the battle ox, of course, costs 2 mana. So you're cheating 4 mana worth basically with this card, which is like an amazing ramp tool. And I really like the green red philosophy of, yeah, we give you a mana dork by smashing face. I think that's perfect. Um, and yeah, I really love the like. Imagine this in turn 3, right? Like yeah, you are right. It needs to hit something. It needs to get in. Usually on turn 2 or turn 3, you can still manage it. But either it trades with something or it gets in and it ramps you. If you're playing this on turn 3 and you maybe have 1 mana open, you can emerge like a mana value 5 emerge creature with this on turn 3. So there you go.
Awesome.
Um, I would say I would say, for me, this is honestly like every time I played this, this has just been a house. I would say this is like a C plus,
Okay.
honestly. Um, I would, I'm arguing if I want to go B minus, but I think C plus is fine.
Yeah.
Like every time I play this, it just feels amazing. Even just as like, okay, late, it isn't that great, but there are still some ways to get it like big enough to just have this pump out mana for you every turn, and that feels so good. This is another dopamine card, and I can't give a dopamine card less than C plus in my
Okay.
mind.
Honestly, I think you've convinced me. I love as we're going through this. It feels like I'm learning more about the set that we put together. Like I feel like I'm learning about the set we designed more and more as we talk about it, as we think about the ways we use these cards, and it's very exciting. It like gets me excited to play this set again and go, okay, what can I do this time? What can I put together this time? It's very awesome.
Yes,
I'm gonna go
sir.
to C plus as well.
Sir.
This card is such an enabler. All right, next card. Des Kangaroo. This is a 4-star Dark Beast effect monster with 1500 attack and 1700 defense. And it says if the attack of a monster that attacks this monster in defense position is lower than the defense of this card, destroy the attacking monster. Damage calculation is applied normally. Tell me about it, Aaron.
All right, all right. So this is a GX card. This is Chumley Huffington's old favorite. Um, I think yeah. I think this card is in the set because of me. Um, I think what was it replacing? I don't remember
One
exactly,
of
but
the
there was
Beast
some
Warrior cards.
yeah, one of the Beast Warrior cards, and I think I suggested this as because we wanted a hybrid card that plays into the defense position thing,
Uh huh.
but also like lets you do aggressive stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was the idea for it. As for how much this was played, It wasn't really played, but it's iconic. It's
Yeah,
iconic. Everyone remembers this thing.
that's
This
a
plus the big koala. This
yeah.
plus the big koala makes the Master of Oz. You get the biggest fusion guy that isn't Blue Eyes Ultimate. So yeah, he also appears in a bunch of artwork. I feel like it was just. I'm mostly happy for this because it feels so mechanically perfect for what it's trying to do in this set, and that's why I want
Yeah,
it in here. And it's also iconic. So yeah.
absolutely. So let's look at the Magic version. In Magic, Des Kangaroo is XX and a red green hybrid for a 1/2 creature beast warrior. It has defense position for X and a green red hybrid, and then it says when this creature enters or is turned face up, put X +1/+1 counters on it. So with the defense position, you're paying half the mana essentially that you would have to pay if you were casting it from your hand. Whenever this creature deals combat damage, comma, whenever okay, just I'm gonna make sure we understand this. Whenever this creature deals combat damage, comma, it deals that much damage to any target. What this means is, let's say I cast this as a 1/2 for a green red hybrid, so 1 mana for a 1/2. If I attack with it and hit my opponent, I get to deal 1 extra damage, right? That's what that means. If I block with this creature as a 1/2, it deals 1 damage to the thing it's blocking, and then I can deal another 1 damage anywhere. Now, let's scale this up. I paid 5 mana to cast it, so it gets 2 +1/+1 counters. It's now a 3/4. Now, when I attack and hit my opponent, I can deal 3 damage anywhere. Now, when it blocks or it gets blocked, I can deal 3 damage anywhere. The idea is it's doing its one thing with its jab, and then the other is its right hook coming across. Right? That's what's going on here. It's a version of double strike that lets you put the other damage anywhere you want. Right? That's what's going on. I personally am a huge proponent of this card. I pick it really often. I play it in almost any deck that can cast it. I throw this card in because I love this card. I probably give it a really high grade because it's also really flexible. You can play it for 1 mana if you want to. You can put it as a defense position 2/2, or you can pay it for green red hybrid as a 1/2. Like, it's so flexible. It lets you do so many different things. I'm gonna give this card a B, dude. I'm giving it a B. It's so good. It's so many. I love playing this card. What are your thoughts, Aaron?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really happy that it came out this way because originally I just want to point this out. The original version of this was that whenever it was dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target. And
And you can play it for 1 mana.
what happened? Yeah, and what happened for that was like, oh, the imagined scenario of your guy blocks an 8-power guy for 1 mana, and you just dome them.
Crazy.
Uh, you could never attack into any defense position board ever. No, we decided to change that, and I think this version is really, really good for it because now you need to actually pay the mana, to have a payoff. But when you do, you get like a massive, better double strike, and I really love that this is like a ramp payoff.
Yeah.
I really enjoy this. There was so much thought that went into this, and I really love the final version. And I'm with you. This is really strong. I love that you can play it for 1 mana. I love that you can play it for 1,000,000 mana and feel good about it. Hit your opponent with this when it has 8 power or something, or block with it when it has 8 power, and just deal 16 damage total
So
anywhere.
good.
Yeah,
It's great with pump spells too. Like if you give it +3/+3
Yeah.
like a giant growth, it's so good with that too.
Yeah. I gotta say, I'm a little proud of this one in the end,
Yeah.
and I will also give this a B.
Yeah,
All
I
the dopamine
appreciate
cards, yeah.
your input really made this card what it was. So I really appreciate what you were able to provide to this card.
Well, thank you.
All right. Next card. Yellow Baboon, Archer of the Forest, is a 7-star Earth Beast Effect monster with 2,600 attack and 1,800 defense. And it says when a Beast type monster you control is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can remove from play 2 Beast type monsters in your graveyard to special summon this card from your hand.
All right. So this is a retrained version of Green Baboon. The Green Baboon was first, I think. This one came later in my 5D set. Green Baboon was infamously the best beast card ever made. Um, and originally, like Green Baboon, for those of you who don't know, it basically said like you can pay 1,000 life points when a beast is destroyed and summon this from your hand or graveyard. That was Green Baboon. This is
Wow.
the retrained version of that. Later, there was a Yu-Gi-Oh rules change that meant that when a creature was destroyed, couldn't mean by battle because it was happening in the stupid, weird Yu-Gi-Oh rule stuff. Basically, before then, you could summon it even if something was destroyed in battle. But after that rule change, you couldn't do it anymore after something was destroyed by battle. So it would only work if something was destroyed by an effect, by like a removal spell or something. And so Green Baboon became a lot worse, even though it was one of the best cards ever, because of a Yu-Gi-Oh rule change, not because the card
Weird.
itself changed. Um, but this is basically like bringing back that version of Baboon where something can destroy, and hey, you can still summon this guy even if something was destroyed by battle. But this basically didn't see much play.
Mm.
But yeah, it's a nice reference, retrained to that. And of course, I think we have Green Baboon in here too, so it only made sense to pick Yellow Baboon in here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
Yeah.
let's look at the Magic version. In Magic, it's a completely different card. It does not do anything like the original version. And this baboon did go through a couple of versions. It had one that was more similar to its original effect, but because of what we were looking for in our red green archetype, I did end up changing it completely to do something fairly different. So, as we'll see, it is 1 and 2 red green hybrids for a 3/3 creature beast warrior with reach, because it's got a bow, so of course it's got reach. It has tap, add a red or green, and it has landfall. When a land enters under your control, untap this creature. So it's a mana dork, a 3 mana mana dork, which in this high powered cube on its own is not usually good enough, but it is a 3/3 reach for 3, so its stat line is not bad. It blocks any smaller flyers your opponents have, can chump block if they've got like a scary big dragon you don't want to get hit by, and also it can double make mana, right? That's the thing it's going to be able to do a lot of the time, or even more if you could put even more lands into play. So it's tapping for its own mana, but usually each turn it's going to make at least 2 mana for that taps, or you can make a mana, play a land, untap it, have it as a blocker or attacker still. So it's nice and efficient. It smooths out some of your game plans. It's great for emerging out of, although it does not provide a lot of value when you do that. It will allow you to emerge out of some pretty big creatures, right? You tap it for a mana, play a land, it untaps, tap it for another mana, and then sacrifice it. You can have that be all on its own. That's 5 mana worth of your emerge, and then you can tap your lands for the rest of it. So he can play a pretty big emerge creature on the turn after you play him. So it's a really good sequence to use him in, is to play really big emerge creatures on your next turn. So not a bad card, super good, just kind of like a nice smoothing out your game plan sort of card. I would give it a C, like a flat C. It does have 2 pips. Thankfully, those pips can be red or green, but that still means that you have to have 2 of those specific colors. And as I mentioned before, a lot of cards like this really want you to play them in decks that play a lot of colors, rather than just playing a 2 color deck or a 2 color deck that splashes with another color. You're often playing cards like this in your 4 or 5 color decks. So be on the lookout for ways you can make sure you have the correct colors to cast this card when building that very color heavy deck. But yeah, I'm going to give this a C. What is your thoughts, Aaron?
Well, I think it is interesting because I haven't played much with this card, but it just, in paper, it just screams like it can just do amazing things. Because if you have any fetch land, which we have some in the set, if you have any sort of like instant sorcery, whatever else that makes mana or puts a land in play, this just produces multiple mana per turn, which is crazy. Another sneaky little interaction, if you have a fetch land and you keep it out and it's tapped, you can basically like untap it during your opponent's turn at instant speed, something like that. There's fun stuff like that you can do, um, to block something like a block a flyer. Um, it's it's hard to evaluate. I would say like any green deck wants this because you just make so much mana. If you just even get 1 or 2 mana off of this feels incredible. So I would say this is like a C plus for me, honestly. Like I
Yeah.
see so much little trickery, value in it, and some really fun moments where you can just get 5 mana or something out of nowhere,
So
Yeah.
I've played this card quite a bit, and I will say the one thing that doesn't feel as good is the turn you cast it. It does feel very like, okay, I'm setting things up. I hope my opponent doesn't have their big play, right? That's the downside. When you untap with this card, it feels incredible to play. To have that much flexibility, that much mana or pressure, right? Make mana and then attack, that kind of thing. Fetch land
Hmm.
or ramp spells, just generating so much mana, right? It's really, really good if you get to untap. And so 3 mana again, it's not like the most in the world, but it is like I'm taking my turn 3 and I'm putting a 3/3 reach into play. And we're gonna see if that, if you're against, let's say, the aggressive aggro like Warriors deck, that's pretty good. Like putting a 3/3 reach into play is pretty good against that deck. That's not gonna feel bad at all. But if you're against the Wizards deck, taking that turn to go, I'm gonna play a 3/3 for 3, your Wizards opponent will go, okay, let me go ahead and either kill it and so that you just don't make any progress, or they make their more efficient play on their turn can happen. And that's the one worry that can happen with a card like this, because it's a 3 mana setup card rather than one of the cheaper setup cards. Sometimes the fact that it doesn't do anything immediately besides put that little 3/3 reach into play can leave you vulnerable just a little bit. I don't think by any means that that's a huge bad thing. Like a 3/3 reach is actually a nice body on the board to protect you, but it does kind of feel like you're taking that time off, just like any sorcery speed ramp spell does. You have to take time off a little bit. And while someone who's like a veteran limited player might go, what do you mean you're taking time off? You're playing a 3/3 reach with a ramp spell attached. That's not taking turn off. But you got to remember how powerful this set is. And so while a 3/3 reach isn't nothing, it is still in the terms of this format, this would be considered kind of taking a turn off to hopefully set up for a bigger turn, if that makes sense.
Oh, I will say though, this is I love the hybrid nature of this because it can either be ramp or it can help you like with aggro stuff.
Yeah.
That's where I love that it's green red hybrid because you can just attack with it, untap it, use it for mana again. There's a bunch of stuff that you could do in both ramp and aggro. For
Yeah.
me, this is like a very solid card for any red or green deck, honestly. C
Yeah.
plus.
I definitely agree. The reason I gave it a C was all the things I said before, but that by no means am I saying this isn't a good card. I've played it a lot. I pick it pretty reasonably, actually. I pick it pretty whenever I'm in green. I haven't picked it a lot when I've been playing non-green decks, though, so maybe I should give that a try. But when I'm in green decks, I pick it like all the time because I think it's pretty solid. So, all right, CC plus. Let's move to the next card, Bazoo the Soul Eater. This is a 4-star Earth Beast effect monster with 1600 attack and 900 defense. It says once per turn, you could banish up to 3 monsters from your graveyard. This card gains 300 attack for each until the end of your opponent's turn. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so this card was a house back in the day. This was one of the first normal summonable monsters that can just get up to 2,500 attack points for free, and it
Yeah.
stays until the end of your opponent's turn. I think at some point this card was even restricted. Don't I don't remember the exact context, but I remember this thing being limited at some point. Um, just because like having a big guy like this, like even a 1900, just banish one guy, have a 1900 guy. Banish two, you have a 2200 body for like a level 4 monster. This was one
Pretty
like
good.
um, people remember this for being a good body back in the day. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm glad it made it back here, and yeah, I think I'm really happy with what we did with it in this set,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, so in Magic, Bazoo is a red green 3/3 creature monkey beast that has landfall. Whenever a land enters under your control, you may exile a card from a graveyard. If you exile a creature card this way, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. It gains trample until end of turn. So we're taking that exile from the graveyard sort of thing that buffs it from the original version, translating that into a card that can actually also be graveyard hate. Because this set in general did not have enough graveyard hate in it. That was part of it. But also because in Magic, you could kind of buff this sort of thing a little bit more to do more than you would have otherwise done in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because of the mana you have to put in. I also made it a landfall trigger because I did that with a couple of cards in green-red, gave them landfall triggers for their ability so that they could be free, meaning they wouldn't cost you any mana, but they were tied to some sort of gameplay that you were doing, which would encourage you to play the cards that ramped and put more lands into play along with it. This card can hit any card with its exile and will always get trample. It's just the +1/+1 counter is only there if you actually hit creatures, so that it kind of reflects back to the original version. It's also, again, a solid body, 2 mana 3/3 is always still pretty solid, not a bad rate to be playing with. It's kind of one of those cards where when you're playing your decks and you're figuring out what your turn structures are going to be looking like, it's nice to have something like this that can be played on turn 2 that just has like a nice even body to put a little bit of pressure on your opponent. Because while yes, decks are doing broken things, right? There's a lot of that. That doesn't mean every game plays that way. And to have something efficient that can bridge into other turns, maybe you sacrifice it to emerge, maybe you don't, maybe you just have a 3/3 that gets a little bit bigger. All of these things play into how you can build alternate game plans when plan A doesn't work out. And I want to stress how important that having something be easy to play and efficient to put stats on the board is. That's why the Ultimate Insect is also a really nice card for the same kind of thing, where it's just like, I can get a nice body into play for a reasonable mana cost and then continue my other game plans. I'm not committing that much whenever I play a Bazoo. And so I like it a lot, big fan of it, and getting that incidental graveyard hate and ability to grow is huge. I'm gonna give this card a C plus, maybe even higher. I don't think higher because it's not fitting into like game plans that are like threatening and killing. It's just a nice efficient card that you typically will want alongside of those. So I'm gonna give C plus.
Yeah, I think I really, really enjoy that we expanded the flavor for this because the Soul Eater now is Graveyard Hate,
Mm-hmm.
which is which is just perfect. Originally, we had it like only exile from your own graveyard and do the whole creature thing. But the problem was, red green is not really the deck that puts a million creatures into its graveyard, right?
Right.
That's more like black's thing. So it was like kind of hard to get value out of it. And now you can use it as graveyard hate and still get that incremental value over turns and just
Mm-hmm.
being a threat that sits there and like having the ability to hate on your opponent's graveyard like this is super strong. And I'm glad we gave this to a deck that um doesn't mill itself a bunch, so you have to primarily use it as graveyard hate.
Mm-hmm.
You can't like you can play it in a mill deck, but it's a bit harder, and I appreciate that, because if we made this like in black green, for example, you would just get a million counters for free. Now you have to kind of weigh when to play it. But
Mm-hmm.
I think as a solid hate piece, this is a C plus for me. Yeah,
Awesome.
honestly.
I agree. I agree. Alrighty, next card is Beast King Barbaros. I really enjoy the Magic one that we made. So, Beast King Barbaros in Yu-Gi-Oh is an 8-star Earth Beast Warrior effect monster with 3,000 attack and 1,200 defense. And it says you can normal summon or set this card without tributing, but its original attack becomes 1,900. You can tribute 3 monsters to tribute summon, but not set this card. If summoned this way, destroy all cards your opponents control. It's doing a lot. Tell me about it,
Yeah.
Aaron.
Yeah. So actually, surprisingly, I think this card saw quite a decent amount of play, but not for the reasons you might think. So the 1900 thing is decent, but there was actually like a niche. I don't think it was ever good, but there was like a niche, somewhat okay deck, um, that was called like Skill Drain Turbo or Skill Drain Beatdown. And I don't know if you know Skill Drain, but it's basically like an enchantment that says every creature loses all abilities. And what that deck would do is it played a bunch of monsters that have downsides but are really strong. So, for example, this guy, you can summon him for free, but he becomes 1900 attack. What if you have skill drain on the field? You play this for free, and then it's 3000 attack because it doesn't have its effect anymore. So there was an entire deck that would play a million of these guys that just can be played for free. Another 8-star monster that you can just normal summon and then it would have its full stats. This beatdown deck would basically use this as yeah, one of the main guys. There was a bunch of other 4-star monsters that had like 2300. This was the king of those because he would just start out with 3000 attack, blue eye stats on a normal summon, you know?
That's
Um,
awesome.
I don't think it was ever like a threat, but this card was played. I remember this card being played. Maybe sometimes even for its level, because like having a level 8 monster in a normal summon is also not a bad deal. So yeah.
Pretty cool.
Happy this found a place here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And in Magic, King Barbaros is 6 red green for an 8/8 legendary creature beast warrior with trample. And it says whenever Beast King Barbaros enters or attacks, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. When you do, Beast King Barbaros deals damage equal to the number of lands you control to target creature you don't control. And then, the nice icing on the cake, it has Evoke for 2 and a red green. So what I did here is the original version had the ability to play it, but it would be weaker, right? And in my brain, I was like, what's a thing in Magic that kind of works a little bit like that? Now, it's not exactly the same, but it's kind of cool. And I was like, oh, okay, I know what to do here. A different mana cost for Evoke. So I would give it an Enters effect that you could get by paying its Evoke cost. You don't get the full creature, you just get the ability, or you cast it for a bagazillion mana. I really, really love how this card turns out. It also plays really well. Getting that playing evoking it for 4 mana by itself is really strong because it's ramp and then kill an opponent's creature. That's such a strong ability to be able to do, even at sorcery speed, right? Like Death Sprout in Magic is a card. It's like 1 black, black, green for an instant destroy target creature ramp. This is kind of like that. But then also in the late game, you could just play this massive 8/8 that does that ability every turn. Big fan. I love this in the ramp decks because it does both parts of what you're trying to do with ramping. I often pick this because I like the way it plays, and it plays so incredibly well. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just so good. I'm going to give this card a B+. Maybe higher. I don't know. It's so good. It's so fucking good. You know what? A-. No, this card's an A- because it like mana fixes if you're playing the multicolor deck. It ramps. It has a big threat, a big body. It is not. It's actually decent to reanimate too if you have a black, red, green deck. Like, it's doing it all, and it puts itself into the graveyard when you do that too. Like for example, I could go turn 4, evoke this, kill your creature, ramp, get my swamp, and then on the next turn I get the Red Eyes Trap, whatever that one was, and I just 5 mana, cast it, get my Beast King Barbaros back. Like, it's so good. I'm giving this an A-. I picked this so highly.
No, I would give this an A, honestly. I mean, this is like the closest thing you can get to Dragoon without playing Dragoon. Because this on attack just kills something and ramps you. Yeah, I think this is like a serious bomb for me. This is an A.
Yeah, card is huge. If you see it in early pack, go, well, I guess maybe I'm playing ramp, huh? Because it's the card that makes you want to play green-red, and you can put it into those heavy multicolor decks too, because it fixes your mana whenever you, if you go heavy red-green as your multicolor deck, then you can evoke it. Oh, God, it's just so good. Okay, yeah, A is great for this card. Next card, Buster Blader. Buster Blader is a 7-star Earth Warrior effect monster with 2600 attack and 2300 defense. It says it gains 500 attack for each dragon monster your opponent controls or is in their graveyard. Go ahead and tell me about it, Aaron.
Right. Yeah, so of course this card is iconic. It's just like Yugi's big baddie next to Dark Magician. He played it a bit later, but this guy did a lot of work later, especially with some of the fusions and like yeah, this guy's so iconic. Later became a deck, of course. Later became a modern Yu-Gi-Oh deck, and is very infamous for how much it fucking locks your opponent down. The modern Yu-Gi-Oh deck just says turns every monster your opponent controls into a dragon, and then says your opponent can't do anything with dragons. And yeah, a lot of people really love that deck. I am honestly not sure why.
Hey, there are people who love like lockdown decks that don't let your opponent play the game. Okay,
Yeah.
There are lantern control enjoyers in Magic. Okay, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I know. I think for like this is the one lockdown deck that has some respect in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, because you have Mystic Mine that is like the opposite of respected, and then you have this which is like a stun deck that somehow has recognition in the community as, oh my god, this is such a cool rogue deck. I'm not exactly sure how, because for me it's always been like this, oh my god, I play this and I do this stuff and then you can't play the game, but it has its place in the community's heart, and for that I think recognized to be here. Of course, it's
Yeah.
one of Yugi's iconic monsters, so it had to be here.
Oh yeah. In in our set, we originally did have a lot of the lock stuff in here, and we took all the lock stuff out and only left a couple of the Buster Blader type things going on. So it kind of fits into this set in a completely different way than it does in Yu-Gi-Oh. So the magic card for
Oh
Buster
yeah.
Blader is 5 red green for a creature human warrior. It's a 0/0 that has emerge for 5 and a red green hybrid. And then it has reach, protection from dragons, and this creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control. So we took the Buster Blader hates dragons part and said, okay, it's going to be a reach creature that can block any dragon and never be hurt by dragons. That's kind of what I wanted to do with this one. There was a time at which we were trying to do the thing where your opponent's creatures now become dragons, so now this Buster Blader destroys all of them. It's also its pump ability there at the bottom used to be different. It used to actually care about the number of dragons that you control versus, or actually care about the number of dragons in play and in graveyards. Is kind of for everyone, not just your opponent, but for you as well. But I didn't like that as much. It didn't feel as fun to play with in the actual rules of the set, even though it was closer to the original version. So I wanted it to grow still, but I chose to make it fit into the ramp archetype, where instead of that, it'll grow based on the number of lands you have, which is what Red Green was doing. But I still wanted it to be really good against dragons, which is why we get that reach protection from dragons there, which makes this card actually really strong. Because there's a crap ton of dragons in this set, and so just having this random card that's like an efficient card you can put into play at a reasonable point in the game, be a complete stonewall against your opponent's dragons is sick. And it keeps growing as time goes on as you play more lands. So, card is pretty good to me. Emerge cards are great. Don't forget to put emerge cards in your deck because of how early you can get them into play for how big they are. They are very strong usually. Sometimes this one will start off a little bit smaller because if, let's say, I play it on turn 4, instead of on turn 7, I'll only have it as a 4/4, right? Instead of whatever mana I paid for it, but it's still going to be pretty good. It'll still grow. As far as emerge creatures go, I'll give it a C+. You'll find that the protection from dragons comes up way more than you thought it would. What are your thoughts, Aaron?
Yeah. I am glad that we basically translated the dragon thing um, pretty well with protection from dragons. I really like that. Um, yeah, this card can face god cards, and I appreciate that. I love that for him. Um, and as for how like yeah, he grows with time. So the nice part is you can get him out early. He's not too good, but he will just sit there and grow and get stronger. And um, yeah, he's basically what you want to do if you ramp out stuff. You just get a big body. I would say a C for me, honestly, because he doesn't have much evasion. He's mostly there as a wall.
Yeah,
He does have some nice warrior synergies. You have some red stuff that goes with that. Um, so yeah, I do enjoy him. And I
yeah,
think I'm glad that he's in here because he's just so iconic and he looks cool as hell, you know?
yeah,
It's like it's Yugi's oh my god, I'm gonna go be a sick motherfucker era.
yeah,
You
absolutely.
know?
And no, don't
Like
forget that emerge cost can be put in any red or green deck. You don't have to be playing green red to play this card, so don't forget that. All right.
yeah.
Next up, we've got Grandmarg the Rock Monarch, which is a 6-star Earth Rock Effect monster, 2,400 attack and 1,000 defense. It says if this card is tribute summoned, target one set card on the field, destroy that target. So um, this is the Green Red Monarch, so we'll be seeing what that does. But tell me about it in
Mhm.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
So this one I feel has not seen as much play as the others, of course. Like if you wanted to kill set cards, you would mostly play God, Mobius. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was his name. And Mobius would deal with back row. Notably, this can deal with set monsters. The problem is, like, set monsters are not as threatening as set spells and traps
yeah,
because set spells and traps can be activated anytime. Set monsters sit there and can be blown up by anything, pretty much. So, Grandmark was pretty much never used. Zaborg, Caius, Mobius, and Ryza, especially, were most often played. I think maybe this saw some sideboard play, but I think He's just grounded, you know. He's down to
Yeah.
earth. He's very much his name.
Solid, you know. All right,
Yeah.
let's look at the Magic version then. In Magic,
Rock
Grand
solid.
Marg is 4 red green for a 5/4 legendary creature Monarch Warrior. It has Emerge for 3 red green. It has Trample, and it also says when it enters, if you cast it, destroy target non-creature permanent. Then each player may search their library for a basic land card, put onto the battlefield, tap. If a player searches their library this way, they shuffle. So what this is doing is I translated the concept of the set card into just hitting non-creatures, right? This would allow you to hit artifacts, enchantments, and other lands. So if your opponent has a powerful effect land that you want to get rid of, you can hit that land as well. And then it replaces what you killed of theirs with a basic land from their deck, but it also lets you ramp as well. So it fits into the red-green archetypes of letting you mana fix and ramp. This card's also great in the 5-color Monarchs deck because it's one of the Monarchs that will fix your mana for your other Monarchs. So he's really good at doing that as well. Excuse me. My thoughts on this card. I haven't played him a ton. He's flexible in the Magic version, allowing you to kill really any permanent. But the fact that he gives your opponent some value, it's not always the best, but it's okay because like a basic land's not the best thing in the world. And as far as when in the game this can be good, earlier on ramping your opponent is a lot worse. But again, you're ramping yourself as well, so it's parity. And later on, it's irrelevant. It's mostly irrelevant, so them getting that land won't matter at all. I think this card's not the best Monarch. It's not as strong as some of the other ones. No, not as for a card that gives your opponent something as well. It's not as good as Kuraz as being since that one's able to just like exile anything. I would give this card maybe a C. I don't really want to go much higher on this one. I think it's just not as good as some of the other ones are, but it is still a solid card.
Yeah. Solid. Rock solid. Yeah, I think yeah, for me it's also a C, honestly. Because yeah, it ramps your opponent, ramps you. It's a semi-decent removal spell. I would often see it as a fixing thing. I think you want to mostly play this either in specifically the Monarch deck for fixing, or you would want to play this in like if you're really lacking some enchantment removal in red green, which
Yeah.
I'm unsure about why you would miss that, but you know, here you go.
We'll see some pretty
Um,
good enchantments later on, but that's more like a sideboard thing too.
hmm Yeah, it's a C for me.
Cool. I like C as well. Just in general, emerge creatures are hard to be worse than a certain level just because of the ability to play them earlier. So, yeah, C. Next card.
Yeah.
Green Baboon,
Here we go.
Defender of the Forest. So this is the one we talked about earlier. It's a 7-star Earth Beast effect monster with 2600 attack and 1800 defense. And it says, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, when a face-up beast-type monster you control is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, except during the damage step, you can pay 1000 life points to special summon this card. Tell me about it.
So yeah, I already talked about it earlier, but
Yeah.
this except during the damage step thing wasn't always there. Because at some point there was a period of time where you could, during the damage step, use this, so it would work when a monster is destroyed in battle. I think this was. I remember this in Yu-Gi-Oh! Spirit Caller, the DS game specifically, because you could do that. Um, and it was a house back then. Like you wouldn't really play beasts, but just the ability. You know, you have like your guy, and then it gets blown up, and then suddenly this 2600 guy just comes down, and it doesn't go away because every
Mm-hmm.
time you kill it, it just comes back. This guy was limited because imagine multiple copies of this. Yeah,
Oh, they're just
one
looping
is
each
just it
other.
doesn't. They're looping each other, correct? So that is the reason it got limited because, well, if you would just keep doing this, you know, it was a pain in the ass. So, yeah, massively iconic thing. That's the reason that Yellow Baboon exists because this was so iconic. Probably one of the one of the OG really good beast things, and I'm glad we got it here.
Nice. I think we're gonna look at the Magic one. I think this is one of the rare occasions where the Magic card is definitely worse than the Yu-Gi-Oh card. But let's take a look at it. In Magic, Green Baboon is 3 red green for a 5/5 creature beast warrior. Whenever a beast you control dies during an opponent's turn, you can pay 3 life and red-green to put this card from your hand onto the battlefield. When this creature enters, you can sacrifice a land, then search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So, a couple of things going on here. One, this is a 5-mana 5/5 that casts the spell Harrow when it enters. You sacrifice land, get 2 lands, right? That's to fit into this, ramp and landfall sort of green-red thing that's going on to fit into other decks. Its beast trigger is a little bit more restrictive than the original one is. This one, you can't put it to play from your graveyard. I thought letting you repeat that over and over again with other beasts might be too good. I do think that was actually would have been really obnoxious to play with against. And I did put a mana cost on it instead of you letting you just do it for free. I do think in the end, as I've tried to play with this a couple of times, it's actually just pretty rare that this will work out. There are plenty of beasts in the set, but building a deck in which that will line up the way you want it to on your opponent's turn, and one of your beasts has to die, which means you probably blocked with it or something, it just doesn't line up the way you want it to a lot of the time. Of course, getting a 2-mana 5/5 that casts Harrow is really good. It just doesn't line up that way a lot of the time, so I find this card just not performing as well as I would have wanted it to. So I'm going to give this card a D. I do think it's a D. I think it just 5 mana for a 5/5 that ramps is not good enough in this set, and it's going to be that more often than not. So I'm going to give it a D.
Yeah, I think the thing that really makes it not good is that it doesn't have keywords. I feel if this thing, just indulge me, if this was a 6/5 with trample and or vigilance, I would feel pretty good about this.
Yeah.
It ramps you, and then it's also a threat. As a 5/5 that doesn't have any keywords, evasion, or anything else, it's not a threat. That's the main issue, and I understand why. I think we just didn't look enough at this card, honestly, because I think the reason we made it this way was because, what if you do it on turn 2 or whatever? But that's never happening, and that's not that far away from 5.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think just to make this a decent card, it would just need keywords. That's all it is. If it has keywords, it's a good card, in my opinion. Without them, I would also put them at a D. But if this had trample, vigilance, maybe one more power, I would probably put this at a C. Right?
Yeah, and I think this is just a card that didn't get as much attention as other cards did, and so not enough people played it. And in our sets, cards that people cared about and had a lot of emotions about and wanted to talk about got more attention. They got more buffs and nerfs depending on whether they're too good or too bad, and this card just didn't get that kind of attention. And so I think as we've been going through, I've been writing down the names of cards that we could take another look at later on. I may or may not change them. It just depends on how we're feeling. I like where the set is at, and if I were to never change a card again from where it's at, I think that the set is perfectly fine. It's very fun to play. Just like any Magic set, not every card has to be the best thing you ever wanted to pick in forever. But if I were to go back and make some changes, I definitely think this is a card that could get a little bit more going on. For example, I think it's fine if it comes back from the graveyard if maybe we put a finality counter on it, right? Maybe we just do it that way. If you get to cheat it using its cheap ability, then just put a finality counter on it so you can't loop it. That seems reasonable to me. And giving it a keyword or two would also be completely reasonable so that it has a more threatening presence when it comes into play. Just there's always a couple things you can do to some cards. And I think this is a really good place to mention that cards that get buffs are usually cards that people don't care enough about to touch. That's not how it works in other games, games with balance sheets and patch notes. That's not how it works with those. But because our game is not meant, or this set is not meant to be competitively played, it's meant to be played with people who love and care about this, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic and want to play around with this cool idea. When a card is not interesting enough or not doing powerful enough stuff or not in the realm of things people are looking at wanting to do in their decks, those cards actually often are the ones that get changed, because those are the ones who are okay, let's make it to where when someone reads it, they go, ooh, I want to use that. I want to do something cool with that. And this card doesn't have that going for it. It doesn't have the sauce. So maybe it gets updated, that kind of thing. But that's all my thoughts.
I mean, I think the we took as many cards as possible that we could find that weren't interesting enough and added one or two things to them because we wanted as many cards as possible to just have this cool feeling of playing them.
Yeah.
And um, this one, I think, just there weren't enough Green Baboon fanboys even back in the day. It was a good card, right? But iconic for some, maybe. But it was never like this. Oh my God, Green Baboon is my favorite card of all time. I don't know many people like that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Next up
Yeah.
is King Tiger Wangyu. It is a
Oh, geez.
4-star Earth Beast Effect monster with 1700 attack and 1000 defense. And it says when a monster with 1400 or less attack is normal summoned or special summoned, destroy those monsters with 1400 or less attack. This card must be faced on the field to activate and resolve this effect. This card is wacky.
Yeah, it's weird. I remember this is one like, one of the first effect monsters, I think. Um, like very early, very early.
Uh-huh.
And it's so weird. I think there are a bunch of like crazy wild FTK combos with this, if I recall right. Could be completely wrong though.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think there was like Konami tried to push this idea where you would play like cards that reduce your opponent's attack and then have this like King Tiger Wank control thing going on, where they play a card and it dies instantly, kind of like Slife of the Sky Dragon.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think this was historically played in decks as a sideboard card against decks that would only play like really weak cards, because then you could just ruin combo setups. Whenever they played anything, it would just die. Any deck that can cheat this out from the deck would just sometimes have to sit this on their end board, and then anything your opponent summons dies. It's interesting because a lot of modern day combo pieces in Yu-Gi-Oh don't have um, more than 1400 attack.
So
So
funny.
that's the use case for it. I don't know if it was actually ever really used that way, but seem to recall that some people just did this thing where they cheated this thing out and used it versus some semi-modern combo decks and just ruined their day because they could summon nothing against
It
them,
seems like it could do that. Yeah, I'm like reading it. I'm like, huh,
Yeah.
wow. Pretty cool. All right, let's look at the Magic version. In Magic, it's completely different. Well, kind of. In a way, there's this the spirit of the original version is absolutely
Yeah, the
here.
spirit is here. Spirit
So,
is here.
in Magic, it's 2 red green for a 4/4 legendary creature, Cat Beast Warrior. It has landfall. Whenever a land enters under your control, you may have Wang Hu fight target creature you don't control. And then it has red green, return target land card in your graveyard to your hand. So what it's doing here is it's playing more of that ramp archetype. It's got its like land thing. It allows you to get lands back from your graveyard if you milled them or if you have the fetch land, stuff like that. That's cool and all. But what it's really doing is the original version feels like the idea is that he is fighting those creatures and he's stronger than them, so they die, right? That's the vibe I get from the original version. Whereas if I look at this version, it feels like it's doing something similar, right? Now it's triggering off of landfall like a lot of the red green cards ended up doing, but it's still he's fighting smaller things over and over again, just like the original version is fighting smaller things over and over again. So the spirit I feel like is absolutely translated here really well. As far as how good this
Yeah.
card is, I think it's perfectly fine. I think it's nice. It's just big enough to kill a lot of your opponent's emerge fodder. So if you are, you play this card and you start playing some lands on your next turn, you will make sure that if they haven't already used their emerge fodder, you're going to be able to easily prevent them from having more emerge fodder that they can use. 4/4 is just big enough to kill a lot of the earlier game creatures and all the tokens that exist in the game as well. So it's efficient, it's getting you what you need. 4 mana for a 4/4 that when you play it, you're just not really doing anything immediately is of course not the strongest thing in the world. But like a lot of other cards, especially in the green red, it's once you hit that next turn of doing things that it doesn't matter anymore, right? You can fight multiple small things if you have a ramp spell. If you have an instant speed ramp spell, you can fight on your opponent's turn, which does exist in this set. And also, just in general, getting to fight one thing a turn with this keeps your opponent's board clear and clean from all the other things that they could be doing. I think the card is actually really, really good.
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping, yeah, exactly. He's sweeping up that little board. Love this card. It plays pretty well. It's just, as I mentioned before with the Yellow Baboon, while the Yellow Baboon is very good, it's a great card you should definitely be playing. This is another card where it's like, you hold your breath, right? You cast it for 4 mana and then hold your breath and hope that you can start doing more things. Other times you may instead just wait until turn 5 to play this so that you can immediately play a land as well. That's a great way to use this as well, as not play it on turn 4. Big fan of this card. I'm going to give it a B- because I do think it plays really, really well.
I would also like to mention that this is a Beast Warrior, so it benefits from Beast support and Warrior support,
Yes.
of which there are a few cards. So this card can grow, and once it grows, it is very menacing. Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, this thing should have menace. I'm sorry.
You stop that.
No.
Yeah.
As for grade, I would give this a C+, I think. Yeah.
Fair.
Because it is a bit hard. You need to play like you need to care about the landfall stuff. I would say C+. I wouldn't go B- territory because it's like, oh, you play this on turn 4, it doesn't do much. Yeah, you need to like plan yourself around it. But when you do, it's just it can be oppressive, and that plays into the spirit of the original card. So I like that.
I do want to mention though that in red-green, you're likely not playing this on turn 4. To be fair, you're likely playing this on turn 3. And it's very consistent to do that. There's the mana rocks. There are cheap ramp spells. There are a couple of mana dorks in the set. So it's very consistent to get this into play on turn 3. So you'll have it a little bit earlier than other things.
That can be oppressive, yeah.
Yeah, but also there are green cards that can help you get this into play on turn 2 very easily. And when I say get it into turn 2, I don't mean cheating. I don't mean expending a bunch of resources. I mean like just good ramp, solid mana production that will allow you to play this on turn 2. And if you can get it there that early, which is something you should be looking out for if you pick this card, then it's a true house, because it is making sure your opponent has nothing in play to be able to build into other strategies, right? So yeah, I give this a B-. C+ is also reasonable. Just know that there is like a lot of potential with this card to lock your opponent out from having small creatures ever again. So
just like the original, huh?
Just like the original. All right, next card. Rabid Horseman. This is a 6-star Earth Beast Warrior fusion monster with 2,000 attack and 1,700 defense.
Yeah, we need more normal fusion monsters with no abilities and 2,000 attack. That is exactly what we've been looking for. Yeah, but yeah, nothing much to say. This is iconic, of course. This was played by Kaiba. I'm glad as said previously, I'm glad that we took all of the vanilla fusions that never did anything and made them playable in this set, and this is another one of those.
It's part of the fun of the set is the way that we chose to do that. We are working, or not we, in the Discord, the community is working on, or has started, but maybe hiatus, another set that is has more things that are further in the future than a lot of this stuff. So if you're like, why is it all these unplayable cards from these eras? It's because a lot of us who love Magic as well also grew up with Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's all the older Yu-Gi-Oh and the show. So we tapped a lot into the show in the Duel Masters era. Oh my god, not Duel Masters. You get the idea. Era to be able to get these kinds of monsters out in cool and new versions to fit into our cool archetypes. So in Magic, Rabid Horseman is 5 red-green for a 5/5 creature beast warrior. It has fusion for 4 and a red-green hybrid. You need a beast and a warrior as materials. And then it says when it enters, target creature gets +5/+5 until end of turn. So what this is, it's a fusion monster that pushes for a bunch of damage all at once, right? It doesn't have any keywords. It doesn't have any special things going on. The purpose is you just play it and pump a creature to swing in for a crap ton of damage. It's a nice pressure point that you can put on your opponents. I like it a lot. In fact, I really like it in the warrior deck. If you have enough beasts to make it happen, it's real nice as a fusion outside the sideboard in the warrior deck. And we'll see a card in green that combos with this as it should, the Mystic Horseman. Combos really nicely with this, because if you fusion summon this using Mystic Horseman, the Rabid Horseman gets trample and haste until end of turn, so it can target itself and be 10/10 trample haste. That is awesome. So Just wanted to mention that. It's a very cool card. You do have to have a decent setup to make it work. You need a creature in play, but it costs 5 mana anyway. You should at that point have a creature in play you can target if it can't target itself because it got haste or whatever. But my grade on it, fusions are awesome because they're easy to kind of build your deck to work because it's going to be in your sideboard. And you're going to just make sure you have those 2 cards in your hand when you're casting it. So remember, this is, unlike a Emerge, this is 5 mana from your fusion. But 5 mana for a 5/5 that gives something +5/+5 is a pretty big swing when it happens. So I like the card a lot. Don't underestimate how much pressure it puts on your opponent. That's a big swing. I'm going to give this a C+, though. Maybe, yeah, I think C+ is reasonable because it's just a workhorse kind of card, you know?
I agree with this. I would also like to mention that this is in the red-blue fusion deck. This is
Yes.
a decent little guy that you can pick up because, of course, red-green hybrid means you can play it in red decks, and you love to cheat this guy out and just smack your opponent.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of stuff. Yeah, the specific synergy of giving this trample and haste is a bit, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, true.
Just giving this just giving this like to a flyer or something is very nasty, and
Yeah.
I would give this. Because it's so specific though, Beast and the Warrior. I would still say like a C+, because these fusion monsters, they may look a bit weak sometimes, specific, but you can play them out of your sideboard whenever, and that's the amazing thing about them. You don't need to worry about them in your hand. They just come out when it's the best time for them, and when it's the best time for this,
it's killing your opponent.
Your opponent is going to feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said about.
Also,
oh yeah, go ahead.
I would also like to point out that have you noticed that the artwork on this is just like the head of this guy is just a red painted cross, red painted X.
I think it's supposed to be like a glow in his eyes. Like it's supposed to be like
it looks
his.
Like took like a marker and put an X over his
It
head.
does. I guess I think that's supposed to be his eyes glowing red, but yeah, it just looks like an X. It's also literally just Battle Ox and Mystic Horseman, and you cut them both in half and put them together. That's literally what this card is. Some fusions are like, how is that a fusion of those two things? And other fusions are like, it's literally them stapled together.
Yeah. You wanted to say something about?
Yes. I like what you mentioned about cheating it with fusion deck, the blue-red fusion deck, because there's a decent number of those fusions that put it into play with haste. And so if it does that, if it puts it into play with haste, you put the +5/+5 on it, you swing for 10 off that cheat. That's a real kill potential. It's very, very cool. So great place for that. In fact, one of the best places for this card is the fusion cheats deck. So, all right. Next card is Thousand Dragon, which is a 7-star Wind Dragon fusion monster with 2,400 attack and 2,000 defense. You fuse it by using Time Wizard and Baby Dragon. Talk to me about it.
Oh, this is such a weird one because this is a fusion monster that was not actually a fusion monster in the anime, There are some... Okay, so there are some fusion monsters that weren't fusion monsters in the anime. And there are also some fusion monsters that turned out to be normal monsters in the game. So they just, swapped it around. This one, similarly to Dark Sage, originally had the condition in the anime that you would need to have Baby Dragon on the field and then use Time Wizard, and then it would age the dragon up, and then it became Thousand Dragon, But they just made it a fusion monster instead. But then they gave us Dark Sage, which is not a fusion monster. I'm not even going to question it,
Yeah. Well, because of that fact, the Magic version is more like Dark Sage.
Yeah.
So, in Magic, Thousand Dragon is 4 red, red, green, green for a 6/6 creature dragon. Notice it's not a fusion monster, right? And it says, whenever you win a coin flip from the ability of a card named Time Wizard, you may sacrifice a red or green dragon. When you do, cast the spell from outside the game without paying its mana cost. This is very similar to Dark Sage. We saw Dark Sage earlier. It has this Time Wizard effect to call back to the anime and how it worked in the anime. This is a rare thing. You're really not going to do this very often, but it is a thing that's fun to have as flavor. As for the actual card itself, it has flying, and at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, reveal the top card of that player's library. If it's a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control, put it onto the battlefield under your control, tapped. So, works with the ramp abilities. It is 8 mana, but again, it's doing some really cool effects. It allows you to get it into play, do something at the beginning of your opponent's upkeep over and over again, just like with Darksage. This is the red-green version of Darksage, essentially. But it's letting you get your opponent's cards if you have enough lands. I like it a lot. I think it's really cool, but it is very expensive, right? The cheating ability on it is not going to happen. That's just flavor, really. But and it has no other real way to cheat it out. And unlike Darksage has a bunch of easy ways to get into play. This one, you have to be playing sort of the red-black cards to get this one into play easily. Those do exist, though. There are a decent number of them, but only some of them really work with this card the way you want them to. So I would say, while the card's effect is very powerful, you do have to have the kinds of cards that will let you actually put this card into play in some way. Could be reanimating a dragon, and it could be putting into play from your hand for free, or you could legitimately be ramping to this 8-cost spell. All of which, though, results in a card that, while powerful, can be a little bit awkward. I'll give you an example. Let's say I discard this card on turn 1 with the, we'll see it later, the mono-red dragon discard spell that you discard a card, draw 2. And then on turn 2, I Monster Reborn this, right? Crazy series of events. But this is like a thing that can happen in the game. You have a discard on turn 1 and Monster Reborn to turn 2 if you have Monster Reborn. When I do that, the ability that I get will only give me something if it's small, because I only have 2 lands in play. Now, it is a 6/6 flying that you got into play on turn 2, but it's important to know that compared to other big bombs that you want to cheat into play, what you're getting out of it is a little bit different, a little bit more awkward. Good card still, but cheating into play is very hard, and 8 mana is asking quite a lot. So I'm going to give this card... That's a hard one, because over time, that ability that it has is very powerful. Getting permanence every turn. It could be even lands, right? Doesn't matter how many lands you have into play. If you hit an opponent's land, you get their land. I don't know. Yeah. Aaron, what do you think? I don't have a grade yet for it, I'm thinking.
So I think there are 2 different, very interesting things about this card. Yes, you are right. Never cheating this out with Time Wizard, but I'm glad that this is here. Whenever this happens, or if this ever happens, I'm so happy to hear, like, oh my god, I used Time Wizard to bring out Thousand Dragon from my, Looking forward to that. But the ability itself, I don't think 8 mana is that unreasonable, actually, because we are in red-green, after all. This is the ramp deck. This is the deck that makes 8 mana. So that's the thing I really like. This is a really good cheating target, of course. Like, as you said, Black-Red loves to cheat this into play. This is one of those great, guys that you love to put in your graveyard to cheat out and not care about its mana cost. But also, red-green can easily cheat this into play. And one interesting thing to mention about that, right? Red-green can ramp into this. Once you've ramped to 8 mana, the Thousand Dragon will, on your turn, most likely not hit lands, which is a very good thing, Once you've actually reached that 8 mana number on your, you are probably going to hit some hefty cards every turn while this is on the field. So if you play this the fair way, so to speak, there's a higher chance it will reward you.
Yeah.
That's what I find interesting about it.
Yeah, that is a good point. As we've seen with some of these red-green cards, the ramp is good. Like, it's pretty good ramp. And this is to mention nothing about how, there are 2 mana rocks. There's 10 of them in the set. So if you're playing a ramp deck, you can get a lot of different cards that help you ramp very easily. And this is a very good payoff. So if you find yourself in a deck that, has a lot of mana, is going to be building a lot of mana, this is a fantastic payoff to just be able to cast and get that sort of... get that value back. So yeah, I think that's fair. What kind of grade do you want to give it?
I'm giving it a C+. Honestly, I know that's a bit boring. Like, this card by itself obviously is a win condition. Of course, it's kind of hard to bring out, but once you bring it out, it's just once it's on the field, it's an A for me.
Yeah.
Because every turn this stays on the field, it just ruins your opponent. Same with Darksage. But as long as it's not brought out, it's like a C plus because you
Yeah,
need to find some way to ramp it out, cheat it out, or whatever else. So
yeah,
either pick this late as like a win condition, or pick it early with the idea of somehow cheating it out or
or
going into red
ramping.
green and ramping the shit out of everything.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I definitely agree there. Like, yeah, I give it a C plus. I would say in a vacuum, it's less powerful than Dark Sage, just because being able to search up the perfect answer is crazy.
Mhm.
But the fact that you're playing red green means you're way more likely to be able to pay 8 mana for it than you would in a blue black deck. So it's more reasonable. And even so, it's still a
Imagine,
game ending threat, right? Getting
imagine,
a permanent off your opponent's library every turn is still crazy.
and you're the deck that plays all the big guys. So imagine hitting
Yeah.
like a Barbaros off of this, right?
Well, so make sure
Yeah.
that's not. I want to be clear about this. It hits your opponent's deck, not yours.
No, each opponent's upkeep. God damn
Yeah.
it! Each opponent's upkeep, not your own upkeep. Damn,
Yes.
damn. No,
And it
so
only
my point
hits
about the lands
their
was
deck.
was
Yeah.
moot.
That's okay. That's okay.
Oopsie.
That's all right. It's still getting you value for free. Like you don't have to
Yeah.
pay mana. You don't have to do anything like that. So it's still a very good card overall.